In this video, I want to show you this incredible 1950s Premier kit that I bought recently from Facebook Marketplace. It's got its own unique backstory, it's in incredible condition, and alongside that it came with some great cymbals and has some really nice features that I've never seen on a Premier kit before. So the story goes, according to the man who sold me the drum kit, that this had been in an attic in Newport in Wales for many years, and he was actually pulling it out of the attic during a house clearance for, I believe, a relative of his who I think owned the drum kit. Now, he told me that the owner of the kit used to play in a trio, and the band got some gigs. I can't remember if he said it was on a cruise ship or something like that, but it was going to involve a lot of travel. Now, the three band members, who are all male, were going to take their wives with them, and two of the three wives were happy to go along and they wanted to do the gigs. However, I think it was the drummer's wife said that she didn't want to go. So the kit basically got put in the attic, the band folded, and that's where the kit has sat ever since. Initially saw this kit for sale, I actually dismissed it, and it was only a couple of weeks later when I saw that they'd lowered the price that I thought I'd better give it a second look. Now, the price itself, which I'll tell you later what I paid for it, wasn't really the problem, but the main issue was that none of the photos showed any indication that it was complete. You see, there was no 12x8 inch tom in any of the photographs, but I could see that it came with some old fibre cases. They turned out to be the original ones, but one of them was 12x8 inch tom kind of shaped, and I was like, it'd be very weird that you've got the case but no drum, particularly when you've got the snare drum. You know, if there was no snare drum I could understand that, but no high tom, I mean, how does that happen? And the guy said to me, they were not drummers, he said to me, I'll have a look in the attic and I'll call you back. Now obviously he did find the tom, he called me back and he said it was in the attic, and I was like, so I arranged to go and look at it at our next convenience, and obviously I bought the kit. Now this kit is sporting all but one of its original calfskin heads, or at least period correct calfskin heads. The only one that isn't calf is this top 12-inch tom skin here, and we've even got the drummer's initials on here, not done in the traditional shield shape as many of them were, but I guess because he had three initials that he's done them in his own kind of very meticulous logo, which would have been, I imagine, done with some kind of stencil. It's really well done actually, and the lines are really perfectly straight, so somebody obviously had a really good eye for detail here. And I don't know what the drummer's name was, but probably Roger, Percival, Charles. If we take a closer look at the only synthetic drum skin on this kit, we've got this Everplay one here. Everplay were Premier's own line of synthetic drum skins, and in around 1963 they changed from Everplay to Everplay Extra, so this skin is probably pre-1963. Could mean that the kit has not had any skins put on it since the early 60s. It could also be that this was new old stock, a bit like those drumsticks, and that actually, you know, it's been maintained since then, but judging by the calf skins, I just don't think it's been played that much. The kit I have here is in a finish called Black Diamond Pearl, which was quite common at the time. It's a lovely finish. It's got an almost three-dimensional quality to it, so it looks different in different lights. And the shells themselves would have been more than likely a 3-ply birch shell with beech reinforcement rings, which just helped to add a little bit of strength on the shells. Now, the more nerdy among you may have noticed that this snare drum does not in fact belong with the kit itself. This is a Premier Hi-Fi, a 10-lug chrome on brass Premier Hi-Fi from the 60s, and rather interestingly it's sporting a Foote's drum store sticker, and it says on here 20 Denman Street, London. Now that's the address that Foote's was at between 1956 and 1969, so we know roughly when this was bought. It's in remarkable condition, it needs a clean, but again, due to Premier's patented diamond tip chroming, the chrome has survived remarkably well. There's no pitting really on it at all, and I genuinely believe if I spent half an hour with this, time I don't have unfortunately right now, I think I could get this looking brand new. The badge is immaculate, there's no drill holes or anything like that. The very old Remo on the top, which is in pretty poor condition, that survived the tuning, but it seems that the Everplay Rezo, which is incredibly thin, clearly didn't, unfortunately. So it's going to need a new bottom skin, but a really nice drum. It wouldn't have been absolute top of the range in the day, but it would have been very nice, and being chrome over brass, these things just cut really well, especially with these die-cast hoops on them as well. Now, I couldn't move on from talking about Foote's without telling you a couple more amazing facts about it. So it actually opened its doors in 1920, and it survived at various different locations all the way up until around 2022, where it had a big sale and unfortunately closed down. But in 1956, it became an official agent, a premier drum agent, to sell as an authorised dealer. So it makes a lot of sense as to why my drum would have been from there. Also in 58, Nick Mason of Pink Floyd fame also bought his first drum kit. I've actually owned several 50s Premier kits, but this one's pretty special, not only because of its fairly original condition, but also because it's got something that I've never seen before, and that is patent number 565313, the cowbell bracket. Now this is attached to the floor tom, and it's got the original Premier cowbell here as well, which is very, very cool. Probably a 5.5 inch, maybe a 5-inch cowbell, with a little tapering upwards, and this very kind of nice kind of chromy finish as well. Now there is one problem that I can see here, and that is that I think that this bracket has been retrofitted. Obviously it's the right one, it's from the right era and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, but I think it's on the wrong side, because the badge on this floor tom, and there's only one, is here, which would make me think that it should be round by the bass drum, so you can see all the badges at the front of the kit. That's certainly how I would set it up. But this is on this side, which makes me think that potentially the drummer who owned this kit before me was left-handed, because that would make sense as to why you would then turn it that way round. The floor tom will be over there, the badge will be at the front, the cowbell will be on the outside of the drum. So I think he may have been a lefty. So as you can see, this kit is in remarkable condition for its age. I mean, it's going to be over 70 years old, but there are a couple of things that are confusing me a little bit. First of all, you may have noticed I am using a snare drum stand for the tom. I don't unfortunately have the original tom holder, they just didn't seem to have it, but that's okay, we can definitely find one of those if I have a bit of a look on eBay. Also, the bracket for the tom itself seems to be a little bit too central on the top of the bass drum as to what I'm used to. The other Premier kits I've had before, it's always been quite noticeably to one side, very close to one of the lug boxes, and in this case it just seems too central. So I don't know if perhaps it was a virgin bass drum that they've then added the bracket to. Again, it's the right bracket, so I'm not too worried, but it just seems to be a little bit too on the top, and all of the pictures I can find in all the catalogues, they show them a bit further over, so I'm just a little bit confused by that. There are also some holes here. There are 4, 3 of which have been plugged, 1 of which has just been left open. That makes me think that perhaps there was a ride cymbal attachment or something like that, with a kind of L-shaped arm coming out, a bit like Ludwig used to do. One of the most incredible things to come with this drum kit has got to be these brand new in the box Premier drumsticks, which have still got the price on, which is handwritten in pen, and it says £1.18. Then you can see that they're nylon tip, and also that on the actual sticks themselves they say Premier E. These have definitely never ever been used. There was not a mark on them, and obviously these were bought by the previous owner of the kit, and then just, you know, they just never got around to using them. So yeah, brand new, still in the box, still with the original price. Where are you going to get a set of these from? You may have noticed that during the playing segments of this video, I haven't close mic'd the drum kit, and that's because it just didn't seem right to. You see, in the 1950s when this kit was released, recording was in a very different place as to what it is now. An example would be in 1957's Jailhouse Rock by Elvis Presley. DJ Fontana's drum kit was mic'd using only a single overhead, likely a ribbon mic like this one that I've got here, and the issue with that was that you didn't really get the bass drum sound very clearly. If you listen to the record, you'll see exactly what I mean. So to record this kit, I've opted just to use a single ribbon mic. This is a Coles 4038, which is actually a continuation of the STC 4038, which was made in the 1950s, and it was used a lot during the BBC recordings. Now, we can't talk about this era of drum recording, particularly Premier drum recording, without mentioning Ringo Starr and the Beatles. Now, Norman Smith used to record Ringo's Premier drums by using 2 microphones, the STC 4038, which is the older version of what I have here, and the STC 4033, which unfortunately I don't have access to, and they're very, very expensive. Now, what Norman used to do is he would place the 4038 around Ringo's eye line to capture the top of the kit, and then he would place the 4033 just off centre of the bass drum, being that ribbon mics don't like too much sound pressure as you can damage the microphone, so just a little bit higher towards the top of the bass drum, and that would capture the low end of the kit. What he would then do is add a little bit of compression on the way to tape, and he would also add a little bit of EQ on the top end. Now, as I'm only using one microphone, what I've done is instead of placing it as an overhead, is I've actually placed it more as a room microphone. So I've just put it a few feet in front of the kit, as if you were standing in the room with me, staring at the kit. And I've also added just a little bit of compression and just boosted that high end as well, just to get a little bit more sparkle out of the cymbals. The cymbals that I'm using in this video were included alongside the kit in the sale, and when I looked at the marketplace listing, I was fairly confident that I was looking at some vintage Zildjian cymbals, so I was pretty sure that as long as they weren't cracked, keyholed too much or dented, that I'd be okay and that there was going to be, you know, some decent quality stuff there. But I almost got so incredibly lucky that it would have just been absolutely perfect. Let me show you what I mean. So here we have the hi-hats, of course. This is a 15, and of course underneath we have another 15. But this one is a little bit special. This was the first cymbal that I picked up when I went to look at the kit, and under closer inspection it's got a letter K on it and it says Zildjian. This is actually a 1950s Zildjian K. We reckon maybe mid-50s, and when I say we, I had some help from a good friend of mine, Charlie Smith, who's a member of my Discord, a member of my channel, and he actually helped find some pictures with a rough date of when this is from. This is a very, very special and rare cymbal. There's a very slight chip in the bell there, but it's not cracked, it's just a tiny little chip, and it's actually got the cymbal smith's signature underneath as well. Now, it sounds beautiful. Two things. First of all, why am I not using it on the top? Well, it's got a very small hole from the bell, and it doesn't actually go on the cymbal cup that I've got on this stand, so I've had to use the other one. But talking of the other one, of course, when I picked up this one I've just shown you, I was thinking this could be a set of Zildjian Ks, set of 15-inch Zildjian Ks from the 50s. Amazing. I picked this one up. And it's not. It's a Super Zin. It's not even a 5-star Super Zin. It's just a Super Zin. It's actually quite a nice-ish cymbal. But Zin, I've covered in another video, so I won't go into too much detail. They were made in England. They were sold with many of the Premier kits in the day. And they're okay, but they're obviously not anywhere near the value of a Zildjian K. I also had a comment when I put up a short recently, or on my Instagram I think it was. Somebody said that actually back then cymbals were not kind of divided into such categories as they are now. So back then this could have just been a 15-inch cymbal as opposed to a 15-inch hi-hat. They were more weighed, you know, by the gram. So this I think was 906, 907 grams when I weighed it, and people would kind of match them sonically roughly depending on the weight of them and how they kind of paired up. So it may be that it's just a 15-inch K as opposed to a single 15-inch K hi-hat. Now, unfortunately, that is the only Zildjian K of the lineup, but we do have two more Zildjian A's. This one here is an 18-inch crash, probably a medium. I'm not exactly sure on the date of this one. I reckon it's probably a little bit later than the kit itself, and there's no maker's mark underneath as well. But it's in pretty good condition. There's no sort of chips or anything like that, but there is a little bit of keyholing going on. That occurs, for those who don't know, because the cymbals are handmade, and of course they're not going to be exactly perfectly balanced on each side. So when you play the cymbal, it's going to naturally find a point at which it wants to sit, and every time you play it, it's going to gradually eat away at the bell, particularly if you don't have cymbal savers on like these plastic sleeves I have here. The last cymbal I want to show you here is this 22-inch Zildjian Avidus that I got with the kit. This is obviously a ride, and I reckon it's probably a little bit later, maybe even than the crash cymbal. Got this very large stamp on it here, and I was a bit concerned about the bell at first because it looks very flat in the sort of taper of it there, but actually it's so consistent that I don't think it has been damaged. I think it's just how it is. It's still got a lot of the dust from when it came out of the attic. It just sounds beautiful, really nice cymbal. Not exactly sure on the value of this one. I would think around 150 quid maybe to the right person, but I'll probably just put it on eBay and see what I can get for it really. Two more important things to mention are that I paid £350 for the Premier kit, and also that the winner of the Yamaha Crosstown competition from a couple of weeks ago is Liam Sutherland. Thank you so much to all the channel members and everyone who bought tickets as well. Well, thanks so much for watching. Remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to check out the link in the description below for channel memberships and competitions. I'll see you again soon.